County Assembly for being independent against a united minority and majority sides of the County Assembly. The main issue that triggered the filing of this impeachment motion is the demand, and we say the demand for ward fund by MCAs, and all other allegations are peripheral to that allegation. We have evidence to that effect. The impeachment is not approved by the voters of Meru County, contrary to the impression created by the shambolic public participation exercise. The question that begs an answer is whether this motion is supporting the will of the people or against the will of the people of Meru. We submit that this is a case of abuse of power, where, again, MCAs are using impeachment as a weapon as opposed to a tool for oversight. The allegations cited in the impeachment motion cannot form a threshold for impeachment and are full of outright falsehood and political statements taken out of context with no evidence of violation of the law. At the end of this hearing, we urge the Senate to find that the allegations cited for impeachment have not been substantiated as required under Article 181 and Section 33 of the County Governments Act. The process did not comply with the law, and the same cannot be sustained by the Senate. Honorable members, I respectively beg to sit down unless you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have kept time, and just like we did in the other case, maybe, yes, Esther, somebody has something to say?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a question for him. From your opening remarks, you already indicated this was a partisan process. What would you associate the witch hunt with? And given the accusation that came a short while after elections, what would you attribute these to? Do you think it's misunderstanding due to team dynamics? I would be looking forward to listen to what you have to say about that. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mine is to request the Council. He made, the statement that MCAs spearheaded the public participation exercise. Strictly legally speaking, in your view and in accordance with the law, who was supposed to spearhead public participation?
For Migori, Senator Okech.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Council, for an excellent introduction or opening remarks. Highly appreciated. Two quick comments. Chair, the Council has indicated that this impeachment is at the backdrop of a court order, and I just wanted to seek whether the Council is in congruence with the understanding of this committee that the determination of the constitutional petition number E024 of 2022 was on the basis of the first motion that the Assembly had, and the hearing you're having now is on the basis of the second motion, which has got nothing to do with constitutional petition number E024. That's the first comment. The second comment, quickly, Chair, the Council has made a very strong statement intimating the passionate nature of the governor, to the extent that some of the allegations do come out of political statements, which the Council has indicated that some of these political statements cannot be basis of accountability to the extent that warrants impeachment. Council, guide the committee perhaps with regards to Article 179 of the Constitution, specifically Section 4 of that article, Sub-Article 4, I mean, which establishes the governor, and I think is the only officer elected under law who is subject to be an executive voted for. And with regards to that as well, read it together with the County Governments Act, section number 30, which establishes the functions and responsibility of the governor. May you guide this committee whether those political statements are not in respect with those two provisions of law. Article 179 of the Constitution, Sub-Article 4, and Section 30 of the Counties Government Act of 2012. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Okech. Senator for Nairobi.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps to help my brother Eddie. Council, you have made reference to a court order at the inception of some of his proceedings. We want to know the second impeachment motion, which is the basis of his proceedings. Was there a case filed? Was there any order barring the assembly with that second impeachment? Number two, is it your position that you cannot, in fact, violate the law by pronouncement? Is that the position that you want to give us, that you can, in fact, not violate the law by a mere pronouncement?
Perez.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Council has said that sometimes the utterances of the Governor are emotional and passionate, but later retreats to seek legal and technical advice. Chair, I don't know whether the Council can clarify whether the Governor understands that it should be the other way around. I'm not giving an opinion, but I think he needs to clarify that.
Thank you.
Whether that's the ideal situation.
KUUNGWA.
Thank you very much, Chair. My question is only one to the Council, and it revolves around the Ward Development Fund. Because the Council has said that all this started because the Governor has refused to give the MCAs the Ward Development Fund. So I wanted to understand at which point did the Governor refuse, or is purported to refuse? Because I do understand for an assembly is a legislation body, so they're supposed to come up with this law, pass it for the Governor to assent. So did they go to that stage of passing this law, then the Governor refuses to assent to this law? That's all.
Thank you. That is all. Yes, that is all. Council, we will give you time to respond to these issues. But members, I was thinking, we remind ourselves the matter raised by Senator Okech and supported by Senator Sifuna on the matters of the High Court orders that were delivered in respect of the first impeachment motion. That matter, Mutuma and company advocates, they wrote to the Speaker of the Senate. And from what we are hearing, they have not challenged our jurisdiction. So since they are not challenging our jurisdiction, we shouldn't go there. You don't have to really burden yourself with that. If it was an issue, you would have challenged the jurisdiction of this sitting. It means they respect this sitting. That's why they are here. Let us discharge. Finally, in our program, we were supposed to receive evidence from the County Assembly at this point between 12:40 and 1 o'clock. But if you look on the clock, it is 1:17. So I wanted to request members to manage time. We give 5 minutes to both sides. They address the issues we have raised. Then we adjourn for lunch. And when we come back, we now hear evidence. Would that be okay, members? Thank you. So, County Assembly, issues raised.
Chair, questions were asked as to what I meant by unintended consequences, and whether by that I meant my preference of who should have been governor or the preference of the MCAs as to who should have been governor. The answer to that question is, when the people of Meru went to vote, they did not vote the governor to be fighting other leaders. They did not vote their governor to be usurping the statutory functions of the County Public Service Board. So that is what I meant by unintended consequences. In fact, Chapter 6 is loath to such a governor or any other leader who engages in such behavior. So it must be then an unintended consequence. Then I was asked, would a discharge of the governor be analogous to appeasement policy that European leaders and their American counterparts had against the warmonger in Germany? And I think I answered that question and said, this House has all the rights. There's an unqualified right to make whatever decision it wants after hearing the evidence on both sides. No one can be hard to fault the Senate because they decided the matter one way or the other. At any rate, the Senate must decide it one way or the other anyway. I was asked, how do we compare the people who voted for the governor vis-a-vis those who voted for our accusers, the MCAs, and the people who have all these complaints? Our answer is as follows. Number one, the governor was not the only leader elected in Meru. The people of Meru equally elected the MCAs, who she's at war with without good cause. The people of Meru elected their senator, with whom she is at war with. The people of Meru cast votes they were not sufficient to return the cabinet secretary, who she is at war with. The people of Meru voted the MP for Tigani East, and indeed all the 9 MPs. Therefore, it cannot be taken that the Honorable KAWIRA MWANGAZA is the only person who was voted in Meru, or that somehow there is something special about the votes she garnered. The entitles are therefore to have these false accusation and vilification campaigns, which we hope will persuade you when we get there. What I meant by the issue of where do we place the people, we have already placed before you, and we'll get there, the public participation results. And they tell you, while as the people of Meru may have a certain opinion as at 9th August when they cast their vote, supervening events, specifically the events mentioned in the impeachment motion, have tilted that will of the public, of the voters of Meru, and we'll get there when the evidence starts flowing. Questions were asked whether we'll be impeaching the governor so shortly after an election. And the question, the answer, Chair, is we will be creating a very dangerous precedent to say it is too soon, because what you will be establishing is a precedent that tells any other governor that you can engage in whatever misconduct you fancy, You can go breaching the law in all 4 directions of the campus because it is too early anyway, nothing will happen to you, and we will have declared that Chapter 6 of our Constitution stands suspended. The first few months, first few weeks, or whatever days after the election. There was a question about the first past the post. It is true that our electoral system is first past the post. But that is the more reason why anyone accused of these heinous crimes should be very careful before roping in the people and saying the will of the people. Because although my colleague told you she beat the next candidate by more than 100,000 votes, it's in the public domain. The votes were as follows. KAWIRA got 209,148. The Honorable Linturi got 183,859. The Honorable Kireitu Murungi got 110,814. The will of the people, Mr. Chair, must be taken as including these people who also voted for Linturi and Kireitu, who when combined anyway are more than the people who voted for the governor. And merely because the system is fast past the post does not mean the will of all those other people who are actually more counts for nothing, and therefore the MCAs they elected should be insulted every day, should be vilified every day, and no other things that we've placed before you. There was a question about, I think my colleague said about public participation. When you get there, Chair, we have our volume 4, and it will show you 2,734 persons signed 300 written memoranda in support of the impeachment motion. It will show you only 30 persons, 30, sent memorandum in favor of the governor, and because we love full and frank disclosure, we have attached even those memoranda that were sent in favor of the governor, the 30 of them. More than 1,080 persons made oral representations, and out of those 1,080, it is only 260. All these can be confirmed by your Secretariat Chair from our volume, who expressed oral views against the impeachment motion. And that is what we meant, whether it is really true for the governor now to wear the cloak of the people. It is the easiest thing to do. Perhaps I would do it if I were in her shoes. But the fact that I would do it also if I were in her shoes doesn't necessarily mean it is valid. I think the role of the Senate is to interrogate it and ask itself whether really that is a valid response. And in any event, Chair, even if we were to assume for argument's sake that the Honorable Governor was elected with a 100% majority, would that be a valid answer to the accusations against her? I'm just checking, Chair, whether there is a question I may not have responded to. But I believe they have responded. There are questions, Chair, that the mover, I think this is the last one I have not commented on, that the mover of the motion has said an axe to grind with the governor, dating back to even the electoral period. We do not know, and we'll leave it to you to decide whether that is true. But we have to remind you, the matter before you is a decision endorsed by the County Assembly of Meru, and that there are safeguards in law to ensure that impeachment is not intended to serve personal cause. One of those safeguards, Chair, is the move us to get at least 2/3 of the members of the Assembly to append their signature before you can even present the motion to the clerk. The second safeguard is that in addition to signing on that motion, the MCAs have to verify their signatures with the clerk so that they are not hard to say, I was drunk, or someone brought me a document to sign and I didn't know. In addition to signing the motion, they have to sign a verification signature. The matter has to be prosecuted before the Assembly with the governor given a chance, that safeguard. And at the Assembly, the mover of the motion must secure a minimum of 2/3 of the MCAs before the matter can be escalated to the Senate, and if he fails to do that, it heads. Before this Senate, Mr. Chair, the Assembly, the mover of the motion, must still get a majority of the delegations to succeed. So it doesn't matter anyway, given all these safeguards, and there are many others. For me, it is a diversionary tactic. Again, perhaps if I were in the governor's shoes, I would say exactly that. The fact that I would say it does not necessarily mean it is correct or that it should be believed. I hope I've addressed all the questions, Chair.
Yes, indeed, but just in case you've left something out, we will still allow you to refer to it as we go along. We want you to exhaust your opportunity completely. Governor?
Thank you, Chair and members, for the questions. I'll address two, then my learned friend, Mr. Mwangi, will address the rest. One is a question on whether there has been any law passed, and this comes from the Senator of Kiambu, that directed the governor to utilize, or rather to disperse the ward fund, and the governor refused to assent to that act. There has been no such act by the County Assembly. What is there currently is that we have an approval of the ward fund by the previous government of 10 million per ward, which the governor has already dispersed to the 45, in fact 46 wards within Meru. But what the MCAs were doing is to demand an extra, because there was some disbursement which was not clear from the previous governments of 20 million, 25 million, and you see that from record from the previous governments. So they wanted the governor to continue with that trend, and the governor said, I'll only do that within what the law provides. And to that extent, the governor sought an advisory from the Controller of Budget. The MCA sent a delegation to that effect, and they were accordingly advised on how to utilize such funds. So it is not true that the governor has refused to assent to any law that the MCAs have passed. Secondly, on the issue of public participation, we submit that public participation should be objective. It cannot be subjective. And that's why you cannot be the investigator, the accuser, and the judge at the same time. So if the MCAs have appended their signature on the impeachment motion, then it defeats logic for them again to preside over the public participation exercise, where they choose who speaks and what even goes into the content of those proceedings. So it's only fair that maybe the office of the clerk or any other body should preside over public participation. Otherwise, there would be no unfairness if the very person who is accusing you is the very person who is collecting views, compiling reports, then purporting to say this is what the public are saying. And we'll be able to demonstrate that indeed most of the people that were against the impeachment were either bad, they were beaten up, and were not allowed to give their views. My learned friend, Mr. Mwangi, will take you through the rest.
I'll address the question. The question, what is the position of the governor's political comments in view of Articles 179 and Sections 30 of the County Government Act, in light of the governor being the chief executive officer of the county? My learned friend, Mr. Mutuma, in his opening address, mentioned clearly that the governor has two caps. He has the policy and the technical cap when it comes to execution of his functions. The process of election of a governor is a political process. She canvasses for votes like any other political leader in this country. He's still a political leader. What the governor has to do is to balance between being a politician and being a manager. And Section 30, subsection 2, clearly stipulates what is the function of the governor and which appeals to the political side of a governor, the charisma of a governor, the organizational, community organizational skills of a governor. It appeals to the leadership skills of the governor. One of them, the governor is required to promote the competitiveness of his county. His county must shine, and can only shine through her charisma and how she speaks often about her county. She must promote democracy within the county, and that's an edict of the law. So the fact that the governor is the chief executive officer of the county does not in itself mean she cannot make a political statement. Honorable Chairman and honorable members, many occasions the governor is invited by communities and she is told, we have an issue, we need to have a conversation. She goes to the ground and questions are raised impromptu. At the spur of the moment, the governor will have to make a statement. What Mr. Mutuma indicated is a calling for the governor to inspire hope where there is hopelessness, and also to give a word that we hold the community. And Honorable Chairman and Honorable Committee, we are going to demonstrate many occasions of this nature, and some of them have been blown out of proportion, but we are going to show how the governor dealt with those situations. She's been termed passionate and emotional, but she's not been unable to manage her emotions and her passion, but she has used her passion to be a better manager and a better politician and a speaker for her county. We are going to demonstrate this with evidence. I think that's all on the issues, unless there is an issue we have inadvertently forgotten to address.
You're welcome. Yeah, anything
Chair.
you forgot? Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I just want to seek clarification from the Council of the Governor. You said that the Governor has already dispersed the 10 million to 45 wards. Might you be knowing if the it was directly through the MCS, and if they've already used this money in development so that they can demand for more?
Yeah, the Council for Governors, there's a question here you are dodging. You asked public participation. Who drives? The one which you are executing as the governor. And then finally,
you responded,
yeah.
But you circumnavigated. What I asked was a question of legality. Who is supposed to carry out public participation, legally speaking, on any matter that is being executed by the county assembly? Does the law give provision contrary to what the assemblies have done in terms of executing public participation, legally speaking?
Esther?
Thank you, Chair. My further clarification is to the council representing the county assembly. I heard you say that not a single politician has complained in writing about being disrespected by the governor. Okay, this is not to the one representing the county assembly, the one to the governor. Are you confirming that the allegations are hearsay? And the second concern, and now this is to the council representing the county assembly of Meru, did Meru MCAs have instructions to represent the leaders who are mentioned adversely by the governor as presented? If not, how do you want this committee to treat such evidence? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, members, just a little bit of guidance. You are raising very important issues. These were the opening statements. Evidence will come. Then we are going to pursue the evidence one after another one when it is not too clear. So maybe we could hold our horses at this stage. We wait for evidence.
Chair, just quick clarity.
Yes, but something is banning the governor of Migori.
The senator.
The senator.
Yeah, I think that, Chair, it's very critical that the council did say that the political statements that the governor is overly accused for, and I think the form base of the charges, and to the extent that some of them touch even in article or on Article 73 of the Constitution. The question I was asking, and council, if you may listen to this carefully, the reason why I invoked Article 179, Sub-Article 4, and Section 30 of the County Governments Act is what the council opening statement implied was that we shouldn't hold the governor accountable on the basis of political statements. And that is, and if that is going to be the base of the conversation that will come, even in the evidence that we get as we go through this proceeding, that's what I was asking. That are you suggesting that the political statements are not subject to any accountability metrics under those two provisions of law that are quoted? That's all I wanted to know. That's what you intended to imply.
Chair.
Very well. So we had guided. Yes.
Chair.
You have something burning?
Yeah, Chair. I needed to know whether we are still retaining our question hour, that we still have it later on. All right, but just one more for the council representing the county assembly. Are they holding brief for the senator and the CS so that it goes on record? And if they have records to the effect that the governor is fighting the senator, the CS, are they here representing the people they have mentioned?
Yes, that's why I was saying, senators, these are opening remarks. When the evidence comes in, probably they'll come with an affidavit sworn by the Minister for Agriculture and sworn by the Senator that those things are true. If they will not, then it makes their case weak. So let's wait for that particular time. I want to request that we rise for 1 hour, and when we come back, members, you still have a full 1 hour to interrogate both parties. Thank you very much. We shall resume at 2:40. And lunch is served by Senate in the holding rooms where you are. I don't know which one was the holding room for the media.
The committee is now taking yet another break for the
Weru boma na burabu daragira mtu wonde nibo kinyete ndigurune weru bubu ibwari ndigurune na rotato rwandikirwe gukurukira we tugikongwera weru bubu Meru TV na Dere FM itugukwendera digonko iyo jori weru bwa